3, 2, 1.
What's happening, fandoms?
Welcome back to the channel. If you're new here,
we react to music videos and shows.
Today we're going back to our series of breakdowns from Will at the Pixelists. This one is episode 10 of the Legends of Vox Machina season 2. Arguably, this was the best episode of the entire season. I think possibly the entire show. This fight scene was incredible, and I can't wait to see what Will has pulled out of the details for us. So let's dive in.
Hey everybody, welcome back to the Pixelists. I'm Will, and today we're here to talk about episode 10 of the Legend of Vox Machina season 2. We've made it to the last batch of episodes. It's bittersweet, but before we dive in, let me give a special thank you to Eisen the Pokemon, Kipo, and Lochinvar for these super thanks comments. And Eisen, thank you for the not one,
that's pretty awesome,
2 super thanks comments. Y'all, the support really means the world to me. Thank you so much. Also, if this is your first time watching one of my breakdowns, aspects of these could be spoilery if you did not see the original campaign, but if I ever dive into ultra spoiler territory, I will throw up a threat level midnight symbol. If you don't want to know, just mute while that's on the screen. Alrighty, to kick things off here, we get a glimpse of Rudis, and nothing in particular to say about him, but as is traditions in these breakdowns, I just gotta call out my boy when we see him. Other than that, there's this line from Vex talking about what's with cities up and moving this week, specifically referring to the fact that Singorn up and moved, and now Whitestone is clearly missing. And yep, we're already going threat level midnight, so bop. Also, I think this could be a cheeky little nod or foreshadowing reference to the fact that Tharimfala will be a city that literally up and moves towards the end of this campaign. Maybe that's a reach, we'll see. All right. Next up, we have Vax seeing these wolf footprints, and I think this is a bit of a reach. But I'm wondering if this could be a nod to something that happened in the campaign, but that is not happening in the show, and that is Galdrick. Mm-hmm. Now, I think I briefly mentioned this in maybe an earlier episode, but Galdrick is a wolf that was a companion to the champion of the Raven Queen, and he was originally housed inside the necklace that Vex now has, that she keeps trinket in, that she got from Zara. In the original campaign, she didn't get that necklace from Zara. She got it from the tomb of Pervon Sul, along with the Deathwalker's ward.
I think it's
when the
definitely supposed to be Galdrick.
They found out that this wolf was inside Galdrick. After there's a bit happens, but essentially they command this wolf to guard Whitestone and keep watch outside of Whitestone. So the fact that there's these wolf prints leading into the invisible barrier of Whitestone makes me think that could be an Easter egg. Within the show's canon, it's obviously not literally Galdrick because he's not in the show. So I'm not saying that, but potential nod. And speaking of an invisible Whitestone, this cloaking spell that the party runs into is also directly lifted from the campaign. Gilmore and Allura and maybe some other spellcasters, all banded together to throw up this shield around Whitestone to protect it from the dragons. And I was wondering if we would see this in the show, and it's cool that they included it. Next up, we have Vox Machina reconnecting with some of their old allies, and Allura mentions that they have been gone for 3 weeks. Now, this catches Keylith by surprise because from her perspective, they were only in the Fey Realm for maybe a couple of days max. And this is just what comes with the territory when you are traveling between the Fey Realm, because time is a weird soup. And there's just weird stuff that happens. That's a simple way to put it.
Yep.
And so when they traveled back, 3 weeks have passed in the prime material plane. In the original campaign, this wonkiness happened as well. And actually, people lost their memories of their time in the Feywild as part of this weirdness. It looks like we're not getting that in the show. Not a big deal because it was essentially fixed shortly thereafter anyway. So probably just not including it for the sake of time or wasting scenes on dealing with that. But yeah, this is just what happens when you go to and from the Fae. So it'll be interesting to see if there's any other, scenes that maybe relate to this later in the show. But also, a fun thing to think about is that if it's been 3 weeks, then that means Grog, Scanlan, and Pike have been together for 3 weeks as well. Which just adds some more context to that traveling montage of making our way. They were together for quite a while traveling with the dilapidated Grog. So just fun timeline stuff to think about. And then something else I wanted to touch on is we get another Vax Gilmore moment, and I like that they're continuing to dedicate screen time to building, their chemistry. I really thought we were going to get a certain scene as part of a cliffhanger
Me too.
this season. We didn't get it, but I'm still holding out hope that maybe we'll see that next season. But I'm not going to dive into it since it didn't happen and it would be spoilery. So maybe we'll talk about it next season. Okay, next up we have Allura casting a scry spell in order to check in on the other half of Vox Machina. Now, I'm just going to use this as an excuse really to talk about the differences one last time for anybody that needs catch up. In the original campaign, Vox Machina never got split up. They all went to the Feywild and they were all together in Western. So for the show, they obviously needed some way to bring them back together. Thus, we have Allura casting this scry spell, and they find out that they are in Western.
To find them.
The differences beyond that, there's obviously just like that's a breaking point, and so many differences are going to splinter off. But essentially, the events of the rest of this episode play out very similarly. Even though all of Vox Machina was with Grog in Western in the original campaign, he still challenged Kevdak alone, and they just kind of had this plan of let's see what happens with Grog doing this 1v1 challenge, but we're going to be here ready in the wings to throw down, if you need us to. So similarly, Scanlan, Pike, and Kaylee weren't with Grog and had been captured. Kaylee wasn't even there, but all of Vox Machina was like together, set up in the shadows waiting to make their move. So I just wanted to get that out the way, and so I might reference some of those changes later in the episode as well. All right, next up, there's something that I've been wanting to talk about for a couple of episodes, but I keep putting it off saying that it's not important and it's kind of a reach. Well, since we're in the last three, I'm going for it. This symbol that shows up all over Western, which I think is a symbol for Western, keeps making me think of one of the original Vox Machina crests that they used in campaign 1.
Yeah.
Like
just
here
backwards.
behind Matt. Now, clearly the W on the Western is for Western. But if you flip that W, then it looks so remarkably close to this VM insignia. So I had to share to get this out of my brain. Let me know if anyone agrees with this or if I think it's crazy.
I think it's close.
As we get into the Grog and Kevdak stuff, allow me to give a bit of a precursor. This episode, The Kill Box, is based on really 2 episodes from the original campaign. The Kill Box and also A Test of Pride. And as you recall, A Test of Pride was the name of episode 9 in the show. So they've been pretty faithful to the details of those 2 episodes. And because of that, there are so many clips from the original campaign that I want to share, especially because The Kill Box is one of my favorite Critical Role episodes.
It's a very good one.
All time. I'm going to rein it in a bit. Don't worry, I'm still going to share clips. But just know that like so many moments are directly lifted from the original campaign in this episode. And I would highly recommend checking out the original if you never saw it originally and this got you interested enough to check it out. Start from the beginning, but I wouldn't judge you if you just wanted to watch this episode. But for anyone that is interested in trying that, go back to A Test of Pride first. You could start at the end if you wanted to, but Grog's encounter with Kevdak starts in that episode and then concludes in the Kill Box. So anyway, that being said, we get Grog confronting his uncle, and one of the first things we see is his uncle with the Titanstone knuckles gripping the balcony. This moment was a description lifted directly from the original campaign, but also what's interesting is it showcases one of the Titanstone knuckles properties, which is it deals a lot of extra damage to structures. So kind of a cool little representation of that.
You see a balcony that looks over the entirety of this open area. And there, the dark form of Kevdak steps out. A towering Goliath in his own right. As he comes forward, puts his hands on the railing, the rhythmic slamming of the weapons growing loud like this cacophonous rhythm. His fingers slowly tense and the wood splinters in his grasp, as you can see before you indeed the Titanstone gauntlets themselves, almost cartoonish in size even against his large frame.
You have my attention.
No.
So he's a voice for
What
that.
words do you bring my ears
I
before I tear them
don't
from your
know.
skull, boy?
Sounded like it.
It does sound like him.
Hello, Uncle. The piece of shit you wiped off your boot has come home. When last we saw each other, you saw it fitting to beat down a mere child. I remember another child that got a beating. Seems like he came from your nutsack. And what an easy task that was.
Sometimes the easiest are also the most enjoyable, if you let them string out for a long, long time.
It sounded like his voice.
It does sound a lot. I don't know who voices Kevdak.
No,
I
you have to
don't
go
think
back.
it's Matt, but he does such amazing voices all through the campaign. He could easily voice every character in the entire show, but he didn't want to do that. He wanted to have all these other people, like Lance Reddick as Thordak, right? Like all of these amazing voices. Matt did those voices originally, right? And he has such great voice talent, but they wanted to push all these things over to other people. I don't know who does Kevdak in the show. I can't remember, but it sounds amazingly like this. So it's probably him.
Well, a regular chip off the old block. If he's anything like his father, that is. So I'll tell you why I've come back.
Please do.
See, I've grown. I've learned. I've also watched as dragons took the mighty Kevdak, wielder of the Titan Stone Knuckles, and made
It
him
sounds like
bend the
scripted, but it's
knee.
not right.
It's not
I was
scripted.
wondering, do you also
They make it
squat
up.
when you piss now?
Out of the blue.
There are a few chuckles.
It's not
Are
scripted.
immediately silenced at the realization. Kevdak, seemingly unflinched by this, puts one hand on the railing and leaps over.
All right, so now we get into the actual bout. And quick point of order is that in the original campaign, Kevdak does use his blood axe, but that's because Grog has a weapon as well in the campaign. Once he got rid of Craven Edge, he went back to his old weapon. It's not important, and I actually like this change for the show because them using their fists just feels more visceral and personal in a way.
And it's
So
still
I enjoyed that
cheating
change.
with him having
But
the
getting into
knuckles.
the actual fight, Grog starts throwing what he's got at Kevdak, and it's doing nothing, which is basically what happened in the original campaign as well.
As you slam, whack, whack with the flaming warhammer twice into the oversized Kevdak's chest. Each hit hits, but Kevdak is just barely pushed back by each. And the damage, even the fire damage, seems to be taken down by his raging capabilities. The impacts aren't doing as much damage as you hoped they would.
And the fight goes on to continue in this manner, with Grog seemingly having bit off far more than he can chew.
Oh, yeah.
Leading up to this absolutely brutal moment of Grog getting impaled on one of these stakes surrounding the battlefield. And fun piece of information about these stakes is that in the original campaign, Matt creates battlefields literally with like their figures and little minis. And in this case, he had these stakes set up all over the battlefield, and they were toothpicks, which he had actually taken a bunch of toothpicks from a sushi restaurant that they had gone out to eat for like the week prior. And so they were wondering, like, what are those for, Matt? And they found out the hard way.
19.
19. Well, 22. He puts the axe to one hand, reaches down with his large mitt, grabs you and lifts you up, and pushes you onto one of the spears behind you, and just kind of shifts through you can feel it actually pierce out the front of your chest, about 6 inches.
And this is what basically leads us into the culmination of the where do you find your strength arc that we've been getting from Grog all season.
Yep.
And I love that it comes from essentially his love for Pike. Obviously, it's all of his friends that his strength comes from, but it's in this moment where Pike is like being
Yep.
crushed that Grog really, rages out and finds his strength once more. And, I've pointed out different times during both seasons where we've been getting the moments between Pike and Grog that showcase just how close they are. They're best buddies,
Mm-hmm.
and really they're almost siblings.
Yeah, they're like brother and sister.
It just
If
really
they grow
touched
up
me
together.
that in this moment, like trying to protect Pike is what really sent him over the edge. And just because I love this clip so much, I'm going to share it. In the original campaign, and this clip is kind of just showcasing their relationship. In the original campaign leading up to Grog, like walking out to confront Kevdak, he's talking to, everyone else before he does that. And he has this little moment with Pike.
I reach into my bag of holding and I pull out our trusty salt lick rock and I kneel down to Pike. I say, hey, hold this for me, all right?
Okay,
Yeah, just keep it safe. I don't like getting blood on it.
but listen, I can't lose you twice in one day, okay?
Oh no, I'm not going anywhere. We're just going to meet some really bad folks and we're going to set them straight.
Okay.
What?
Go get him, okay?
And I'll walk out.
Oh God, no!
Alrighty, now on to the moment itself. Now, if you recall, earlier in this season and earlier in my breakdown this season, I was touching on this Earthbreaker Groon fight. And in the original campaign, Grog's "Where do you find your strength?" from my friends, that happens during the Groon fight. So clearly, for this show, they've changed that and have kind of fleshed that out to
Streamlined
complement Grog's
it.
entire
Yeah.
storyline this season. And I think that's a magnificent change. So I'm all on board for that. But because of that, then clearly this moment doesn't happen in the Kevdak fight in the original campaign. So I'm glad they gave us this flashback of Grog kind of having this moment, or not even a flashback, I guess, but just this like vision with Groon, so that they still kind of share that moment true to the original campaign. Because I love that moment in the original campaign, and they did amazing here as well. But if you recall in my earlier breakdown, I showed that clip, but I cut it off since we didn't have the payoff yet. So let's finish that now.
Your vision goes dark as all the sight around you goes to black, and all.
So
the
this
entire
is him
vicinity
fighting
fades
Earthbreaker
except for,
Groon. This is where he has the
Earthbreaker
realization.
just staring at you in this darkness.
So he's
Step
Grun,
towards
the
you.
other guy?
One step.
Groon is
Second
Matt.
step.
Oh.
And while his mouth doesn't move, you could hear his voice piercing into your head that just says,
Grog, you are stronger than this. This thing that binds you. Where do you find your strength?
And my friends.
the darkness around you immediately shatters, and you can see now your friends off to the side, kind of keeping their weapons ready. The entirety of Groon's posture has dropped, and he just bows before you.
Wow. You know, so from here, Grog, having regained his stature and his muscles, hulks out and gets in a few good strikes against Kevdak, but he really doesn't even push the needle, because from here, Kevdak clicks together his Titanstone knuckles and enlarges, which is another facet of the actual item from the original D&D campaign. They can cause you to enlarge and, you know, therefore reduce as well. And I love this. I mean, this wasn't a surprise to me because I knew, you know, what ultimately happened in this fight. But for people that didn't see the campaign, I kind of liked this a lot, because I'm sure a lot of people expected, oh, yeah, he realized where his strength came from. He's hulking out. Like, now he's going to win. So I really liked the subversion there, that it's still.
But you
didn't
knew
even
that,
really
right?
make a
Because you've seen
difference.
it.
I knew.
Kevdak then goes on to absolutely
But you
pummel
didn't tell me.
Grog. And he even
Well,
comments
but-
that this is very reminiscent of the last time he saw him, alluding to the beatdown he gave him in the flashback we saw earlier this season.
Yep.
And Titmouse did a great job of calling back to this, because the two shots are nearly identical of Grog's beaten to a pulp body. So I thought that was a nice touch. And from here, we get Grog noticing some of Vox Machina darting over the rooftops, and he realizes the rest of his allies have arrived. Now, I mentioned this at the start of the episode, But in the original campaign, all of Vox Machina was already here with them.
And he knew
They
it.
were on the rooftops like this. And, just presumably for the show, Allura has teleported them in. But I love that they kept the detail straight of them like being perched up on the rooftops, ready to strike.
Yep.
Because that's what they were doing. And they were just waiting for Grog's signal, which we get in this amazing moment where Grog calls out to his allies. And of course, this was lifted directly from the campaign.
Yep, that was a signal.
I'm gonna look at Kevdak and drop my arms to my side.
It's already on your side, actually. He disarmed it.
No, not my arms.
Oh, your arms, okay.
Straight down. And I'm gonna say clearly, I've been a fool. You are truly a foe to be reckoned with. And I will slowly drop to my knee.
No, Grog.
And I will shout out, Vox Machina!
2 shots.
Fuck shit up!
2 shots, ready?
And we're going to go ahead and end it there this week. Guys.
Yeah. So we had to wait a whole week 7 years ago. They left us on that cliffhanger. So those of you guys that are show only, you don't know how good you have it that all of this occurred within the same episode. But yeah, an iconic moment, an iconic line from the original campaign. And I couldn't have asked for a better adaptation of it.
It was
we get this
very well done.
incredible moment montage anime music video right plop in the middle of this episode with Scanlan providing the awesome heavy metal vocals. And Travis actually helps in this song as well. I'm not sure if any of the other cast does, but I need the soundtrack to come out for this season already. There are so many amazing songs
Has it come
that
out
I can't
yet?
wait to just
I haven't
sink
seen
my
it yet.
teeth into, not to mention the score of the season itself.
The last season 1, the soundtrack got released on YouTube like basically the same time as episodes 1, 2, and 3. It was way too early, and there were lots of spoilers in that. And I think it was a mistake. I think they messed up, and it wasn't supposed to come out like that. So they may be correcting, and that's why we haven't seen the full soundtrack released
I see.
this season, because they messed up big time last season by releasing it way too early. But yeah, I said it before, episode 10, hands down the best episode I think of the season, and probably of all of the whole show so far.
Hopefully, since the season's over, we might get that soundtrack soon. But this whole sequence was just awesome. There are changes here based on, what happened in the original campaign, but really it's not that important as far as combat stuff goes. I will touch on a few things here, though. All right, first up, we get to see Vex flex with her new vestige of divergence, Fenthris. And here she's using Bramble Shot, which we also saw Sildor use, which causes all these vines to kind of sprout out. And in this case, they are holding Kevdak down. Now, in the original campaign, Vex did not have Fenthris during this fight. They hadn't gone to the Feywild yet. Not a big deal, and cool to see her kind of, use it here.
Yeah.
But interestingly, the way that she kind of holds Kevdak and kind of takes him out of commission for, a portion of this fight while they're taking out, other members of the herd. This is kind of akin to something that happened in the original campaign where Scanlan actually has an MVP move of casting Hold Person on Kevdak, and it lets Vox Machina kind of accomplish a lot while Kevdak can't even do anything. They mainly are going for hits on Kevdak himself while he's paralyzed by Scanlan in this way. So it doesn't play out exactly the same in the show, but I just figured it was worth calling attention to that in both mediums, they do kind of, freeze
Lock him
Kevdak
down
in
for
one
a while.
spot for a while.
Total of 18. What's your DC?
20.
I will make out with that fucking shirt, I swear to God.
All right, next up, we get Keylith using her Minxie form once again. And a fun point of order that I noticed on this more close-up shot is Minxie has the same freckle pattern that Keylith does. So I thought that was a nice
that's
detail.
fun.
Also, in the original campaign, Keylith did not go Minxie form. She was instead an air elemental, which we haven't seen her do yet in the show.
Probably
so I'm assuming
because
they just didn't want to kind of pull that out of nowhere without showcasing it first. And Minxie's just, like I've mentioned before, a classic. Next up, we've got Scanlan rising up on his hand while performing this song, which I think is probably an allusion to him inspiring everyone else, which was a mechanic that bards have that basically empowers their allies. And also he is casting lightning bolts that are striking different members of the herd, which is also an ability that he had in the campaign. Now,
And
of course, we
used
got
all the
Vax
time.
taking it to people. We get some good hits from Pike, but we get this moment from Percy where he snipes somebody from across the continent, and we get another glimpse at Bad News. Bad News was his main big rifle that he used in the original campaign, and they didn't call him No Mercy Percy for no reason. This thing could deal some damage. Also, during this Percy moment, we get him showcasing his different shots that he could take. In the original campaign, Percy could call his shot and aim for different parts of a creature or a humanoid or whatever, saying, I'm going to go for their legs, kneecaps, shoulders. And we get that on full display as he kind of tears apart this female member of the herd.
Yeah.
Next up, we've got Keylith casting Wall of Thorns to trap a bunch of the members of the herd. And then Vex comes in with her either blazing bowstring or maybe it's just Fenthras's fire arrow capabilities, since we saw Sildor do it. Kind of doesn't matter which it is. To light the whole thing on fire and just do this nasty combo attack.
Turn it
The
into
next
a
thing I
wall
wanted
of
to touch
fire.
on was this moment where Kevdak snatches this arrow out of the air. This is probably just a moment to showcase how much of a badass he is, but it could also be a nod to the Gloves of Missile Snaring, which was an item in D&D and also one that Vox Machina had. Percy is the one that actually used these gloves, and they didn't get it from Kevdak. Kevdak never had them, but they allowed you to snatch projectiles out of the air like this. So it's at least possible that maybe they are going to loop in Gloves of Missile Snaring into the Titanstone Knuckles. So like maybe we'll see Grog do this. I don't think it's something they'll ever like specifically call attention to. It'll just be more of a cool moment that, maybe happens with Grog, or maybe, it ends up happening with Percy, but I figured I'd shout it out. Next up, we have Kevdak, who has now freed himself from the brambles, attacking Grog, and Grog gets in this epic strike that basically cleaves his arm off. Now, this happened in the campaign, slightly different than this. Like I mentioned, Scanlan had cast Hold Person on Kevdak and was keeping him paralyzed, essentially. So Grog steals his axe and then uses it to cut his arm off. Now, in the show, the axe that Grog does this with, he does pick it up off the ground, and it might be the one Kevdak was using for this fight, but it is not Kevdak's iconic axe, the one that Zanror is going to give him in the next episode, which is not really an important distinction, but I still figured I would point it out.
Or put it in the bag of holding.
Can I, looking at the axe, say,
Oh, I do hope you have a necromancer in your group, because I'm looking at a fucking dead man.
can I aim right above the gauntlet below the elbow on his left arm?
They're trying to chop his arms off to get the
swing to
gauntlets
his side with the axe.
off of him.
Like on his left arm? Sure.
So sexy.
You hack the blade and it sinks quite a bit into the arm right above the elbow. You can see as you pull it out, a bit of bone is exposed from it, but the arm is still intact.
And
it wasn't enough damage to go through, but he's like,
Ugh! And it hit him, right?
Yeah.
So is it an automatic critical because it hit?
because you were within 5 feet. So yes, so double the dice. So would you roll the dice?
So it was a 2.
So 4. So instead it would be 7 damage. Still not enough.
Okay.
But you do a significant amount of damage to his left arm.
Okay.
It is now open hands gripping nothing. All right, and with that, Grog, you're up.
Oh my god. Come on, Grog. Natural crit.
So, in my frenzied, reckless attacking, great weapon master, can I bring my axe up high and swing it for the first attack to his left side where dangly hand is?
You can go for it. So your regular straight attack.
Well,
you have advantage, and then it's disadvantage for that, so it brings it to a regular attack. -5.
Disadvantage for the
because of the called shot.
Oh, okay.
But then advantage because it's reckless.
23.
Don't matter.
23 hits with the -5.
No. 18.
Still hits.
Oh.
Asshole. With that, the blade finds its way into his side as you hear cracking on the rock below him the sound of the left gauntlet hitting the bottom of the square. The fingers kind of twitch in the gauntlet as he's currently standing there with his left arm bisected from the rest of his body.
Does he shriek? Damn it.
Even missing an arm, Kevdak is really not that worse for the wear. He just rips it off in the show.
I was going to say the
and
same
they keep
thing
going.
when
And
we
that's
were
why he
watching
instructs
this.
the herd, like, hey, let's put an end to this. And the tide starts to turn on Vox Machina, even though, we had our awesome heavy metal montage of them wrecking. It really wasn't enough. And if it hasn't been clear from the clips I've been showing from the original campaign, during this time at the table, tensions, nerves, pressure was all at an all-time high.
Yep.
Grog essentially walked into a death trap when he went and challenged Kevdak. And even when he called on Vox Machina to help him, it never really got any better. They were on their heels the entire time. And they were really close to getting TPK'd many times. And if you haven't played D&D, TPK stands for Total Party Kill, and it means just that. Everyone
Game over.
dies.
Everyone's done.
So when the tide starts turning here in the show, like, this was real. They were in trouble. Grog was literally at death's door, meaning he has only a few health left. So basically they thought, the only way we're getting out of this, our only potential way we're getting out of this, is maybe if we kill Kevdak, the rest of the herd will stop attacking and recognize like Grog as the new alpha, because they just could not beat the pure numbers of the
There
herd.
was just too many of them.
So Vex comes up with this maneuver to put Grog in the Pokeball necklace and, release him from the top rope, as it were. And this all played out exactly the same way in the campaign.
So you describe it the way you described it.
They caught Matt off guard with this maneuver, and they'd even talked earlier in the night about just how many texts they'd been sending back and forth over the past week preparing for this battle. Since, if you'll recall, I showed you earlier how Matt ended their session right after Grog called for Vox Machina's help in the original campaign. So they had a whole week to kind of prepare for this encounter. Now, I don't know if they even thought about this maneuver that they end up pulling up or not, but they clearly caught Matt off guard with it. And yeah, she releases him from the ball, from the heavens, just like we get in the show.
Yeah,
and I love the
it
parallel
is
of this shot
amazing.
from compared to the earlier shot that we got of Kevdak kind of laying it to Grog as well.
That was
I thought that was a
intentional.
nice touch.
Definitely
But
very
then he
good.
plummets down and cleaves Kevdak in half with his own axe. Now, like I said earlier, it may not be the exact iconic axe that he gets later, but the weapon he stole from Kevdak. And I'm going to let the campaign speak for itself with the clip here in a second.
This is
but
so
this
good.
was just amazing. Grog gets a natural 20, which means it's a critical, which means he's doing as much damage as he possibly could. And that's a 1 in 20 chance to happen. So like we got this amazing moment narratively combined with this amazing roll of the dice, and you couldn't script it any better. And on top of all of this, like I mentioned, Grog was at death's door, so falling from that height, it knocked him out. So like this was an all or nothing maneuver, laid it all out on the line.
We might as well just be doing this on a treadmill, because
Oh my
I think
God,
I'm
my
pretty
heart
close
is
to like 130.
All right, Vex, you're up.
Okay.
Get him, girl. Get
I'm
him,
gonna
girl.
fly out of the window on the broom.
Okay.
Hey!
So
The roof blows off.
you can
Out of the window.
out of the room.
Fly! Fly!
Where do you want to go?
I'm gonna fly down and I'm gonna shout, Grog! Raise your arm! And I'm gonna go down and I'm gonna hit his hand with the Pokeball.
She said Pokeball too.
Gonna scoot by here.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm above, I wanna be high up in the air, but just
He's
low enough that I can
literally
reach down
almost
and
dead.
touch the locket to Grog's hand.
Okay, it's a good thing
upraised.
Kevdak is paralyzed.
Yeah,
Otherwise, he'd be able to take an
know.
attack on you. This will put you in range for their strikes, so you're gonna have to stay in place or move past and suffer 5 attacks of opportunity.
Wait, all of them can attack, but I'm in the air.
For you to get low enough to hand them that, they all have like big double greatswords, and they're half of them are half giants. So you can do this as you swish up, which you've already said you're gonna do. You fly up and you reach down
With the locket, and I hit.
with the locket. You hand over to him.
I don't hand it to him.
Okay, you just hold it there.
I'm putting Grog in the fucking locket.
Oh.
Trying to medevac me.
Yeah.
I misunderstood what you were trying to do. All right, so
I just want to fly by and poof. And
what's
keep,
it say again?
It's a wisdom save, but if it's a willing person, they can go in.
Yeah. So, Grog, you willing?
No.
Yes.
And with that, as you reach down and touch Grog with it, you see Grog's form shimmer for a second into dark shadow and then vanish inside.
And I just want to fly on past and go up to the next roof.
Okay, so Grog is currently off the table as he's locked inside the gauntlet.
Where should I go? Where should I go?
Where are you going? Because as you rush away, you do get.
I'm gonna fly back. I'm gonna fly back into the. I'm gonna fly around the back of the big building.
Back here, you mean?
Yeah.
Okay. We'll say, for the purposes of this, you are back here.
Okay.
Top of the round, Vex, you're up.
Okay.
As you're standing there now, bleeding profusely, holding the necklace that holds Grog. What are you doing?
I'm gonna fly over right above Kevdak.
This is so good. It's things happen so much slower in the campaign, but it's so amazing.
All right.
All right. I'm gonna Pokeball Grog right out so he can attack straight out of the gate, just like I cannonball Trinket.
And I am willing.
All right.
Aren't you at death's door?
Yeah.
I'll say essentially because you held your action last turn, if you wanted to go ahead and take your action to do a drop attack on this point here.
Can this be my bonus? So I'm dropping him out as the bonus, and then I still can attack.
Locket activation.
For me?
It's only
I mean,
locket
it's only a locket. It's
Yeah,
not like
just-
it's a full
I'd
move.
I'd say it's your bonus action to do it, yeah.
Okay.
So, Grog, you were released, falling down to land at, like, on top of Kevdak with the blood axe in a downward arc.
Big windup as we're coming down.
Go ahead and roll an attack.
Any chance I can make this reckless?
Don't know where.
Yeah.
Don't know when.
Then they all get attack advantages against
Right.
you again.
Up to you.
Thank God for that. Natural 20. Look at it. The first one was a 1. The first one was
Ones
a
and 20s,
1.
man. You can't,
That's
you
a
gotta
20.
stop this.
That's a 20. The
And
first
that's
one
why you
was a
did
1.
reckless. All right, so go ahead and roll damage on this.
Oh my
This is a
God.
quintuple.
Does that mean he gets the 3 12s again?
With the brutal critical this level, how many extra dice is it for you?
Brutal critical is 1 additional damage die during critical hits.
But then that's gone up since you leveled previously.
That's true.
So you are now at, I believe, I think it's 2.
So 3 additional.
Brutal critical, yeah, 13 increases to 2. So you roll an additional 2d12 on the attack. So roll 1d12 plus, you're not raging anymore because you spent the last
That's
round.
correct, yeah. Plus 3.
We don't know.
All right, so plus 3,
So that's 10.
10, plus 2 more d12s.
One's still filled with meat.
That's a 12. That's 22. And a 10 for 32.
And then double that?
And then,
No.
Oh,
well,
his
you
crits don't
double
get
the first roll.
Yeah, the double the first. Right, which was 10, so 20, so 42.
42 brings it to 21 damage. How do you want to do that? As the shadow fires from the necklace as she holds it aloft, bleeding and shaking, you appear and dive down in silence.
Oh my God!
A whole square coming towards you as Kevdak, clutching in the one nearly ruined arm, the other arm that you bisected, is turning the corner, about to open the door to dive into the house to avoid it. looks up just in time to see you streaking down. What do you do?
I say, "For Strongjaw!" And I sink the axe right into his neck and pot him perfectly down the middle.
With the sheer force of the blow, the weight behind it, and the intent, the axe hits him right in the side of the neck, cleaves off part of his ear, shaves off part of his skin here, exposing the jawbone, hits here, breaks the clavicle, tears through it, and every single rib is destroyed. It cuts right through the center of this giant body until it gets to about the midsection where it catches finally. The upper torso just splits open and just covers you with gore. However, you still impact.
Yep.
Not raging.
Nope.
You take.
Hey, it's okay. He's got.
Oh, his shit.
He's got his trick.
Seriously.
Magic trick.
25 points of fall damage from the impact.
That will put me unconscious and 21 points under.
And 21 points under. You have that barbarian ability.
I do.
Would that be part of this? That
Relentless rage.
If you drop to 0 hit points while raging, you're not raging. So yeah. As you shout, the blow, in a very Superman versus Doomsday way, cleaves him in half. And as
then he
you
smacks the
slam him
ground.
to the ground, you pull the axe free as your shattered leg bones give under and you fall to the ground. Smile as you see his form crumple, and then you.
Can you see why this is one of my favorite episodes? And what a joy it is to see it brought to life so faithfully and passionately.
Yeah, this was an amazing episode of the campaign. And obviously, I've already said an amazing episode of the show. Just to explain, for big opponents, when they finally get the kill, whoever is the one that ends that character, like if they finish him off, Matt has a special thing where he says, "How do you want to do this?" And that's their opportunity to describe what that kill looks like. And those descriptions can really kind of be outside the rules, right? It doesn't really matter if what they're describing isn't exactly what happened.
Yeah.
The important thing is that they got the kill, and so they're getting to extrapolate a little bit. They get to exaggerate and have it be fantastic, which is what he did. And then Matt takes what they say and he like makes it even bigger and grander, which is really fun.
But as you saw in the show and in the campaign, Grog was knocked out, but we do have Pike bring him back. And then we have Grog looting the Titan Stone Knuckles. A bit from the campaign that they left out in the show is Grog also skins his uncle for his bear tattoo, and he removes his skull in order to craft a mug out of it. That doesn't get shown in the show. Maybe at a later date, he might still whip out a skull or something. We'll have to see. And then, of course, he makes Zanror the next leader of the herd, as Grog is obviously not going to stick around and lead the herd from here on out. So that also happened in the campaign. Next up, we have everyone celebrating the win, sharing some drinks, some music, some revelry in the tavern. And we get this moment with Vax kind of drifting into a vision of the Raven Queen. But who is it that kind of pulls him back and tethers him back to reality? None other than Keylith. So I like this moment, and I like that we are continuing to get more and more set up for these relationships. We then have Scanlan and Kaylee and the rest of Dr. Dranzel and his traveling troupe perform a song for everyone, specifically When the Bald Man Cries. Now, I guess I should have expected we were going to hear more from this after they dropped the hint of it in the previous episode, but I didn't expect it to be such a friggin' banger. I can't believe I'm going to have to add a song called When the Bald Man Cries to my playlists, but I am. Give me the soundtrack, please.
Yeah.
And this happened in the campaign, but not in this exact way. So, we talked a little bit about Scanlan and Kaylee in the earlier breakdown. I threat level midnighted that, but we no longer need to. So if you've seen this episode, you now know that this is his daughter. And, she knows who he is from the moment they meet each other. And in the original campaign, Scanlan has a bit of a musical competition with her to see who is the better musician. And afterwards, they then, go up to the room just like they do here. And I wasn't sure if they were going to include this in the show or not. I'm glad they did, even though it is, despicable. It happened in the
Creepy and
campaign.
gross.
It's a very harsh character moment that Scanlan had and needed in a lot of ways. So I am glad that they did include this. And we'll talk more about this in the next episode because that's when it kind of actually happens. But for now, when the bald man cries is an absolute gem. And, Sam and Aisling, I probably am butchering her name. Beautiful singers. The song was awesome. And Matt, who plays Dr. Dranzel, is actually the one doing the yippee-yi-yippee-yi-yos or whatever it was. So that was a nice touch as well. Why can they all sing? It's too much talent.
Mm-hmm.
They need to, share. Anyways, I also love the little prestidigitation or whatever, minor illusion, whatever the magic might be that Scanlan and maybe even Keylith is helping with at the end of the song with the fireworks going off behind them. I thought that was fun. One last detail in this scene is Grog and Xanror, kind of band together and decide that they will join forces and try to take out Umbrasyl. And as part of this, they're trying to figure out what to do. And we get this this drop here of At Dawn We Plan. Now, this is the name of an episode from the original campaign. In fact, it's the episode after the kill box because at dawn they plan. A lot of the episode was them trying to figure out how to tackle Umbrasyl. And in fact, of course, At Dawn We Plan was a line literally lifted from that episode. And just in general, if you've never watched Critical Role, a lot of what they do around that table is sitting there trying to formulate a master plan in order to tackle.
Trying to figure out how to do things is a lot of what they do. A lot of times, about 5 seconds into whatever they're doing, that plan goes up in flames and completely out the window. So this was just a nice little nod. Alrighty, and to end this episode, we have Scanlan and Keylith going up to the room to have a little alone time. And I touched on this a bit, but there's a couple things here I just wanted to point out. As they're walking in, Scanlan is telling the story about how I turned us all into cows. Yep.
And this is an Easter egg that actually popped up in season 1 as well. It was on the banner in Grayskull Keep behind Allura. There was
the rock
a depiction
and the several cows.
And a rock, R-O-C.
Yeah.
Now, this is because in the original campaign, there was this moment that Scanlan turned everybody into cows because they were trying to hunt down this rock that was,
eating cows,
disturbing local farmers' lives. So a nice little additional callback to that. Also, I just loved the little detail of Scanlan having, his embroidered banana hammock because of course he would. And y'all, for the rest of the Scanlan Keylith stuff, we're going to save that for next episode since that's when they really get into it. It's just more of a cliffhanger here. And with that, y'all, that's going to be it for this one. We are going to be real close to an hour long on this video, especially when we include this last clip that I'm going to show. So thank you for bearing with me. I know some of you out there are just as crazy as me, so hopefully you enjoy it. But, hopefully the runtime doesn't turn a lot of people away.
It's worth it,
But as always, thank you for watching, y'all. Really appreciate it. It's our last 3, so, I'm probably going to be a little bit more long-winded on these outros. So, bear with me. Don't forget that we do have a podcast, and even though the show's ending, we will continue to push out content. We will be covering Critical Role Campaign 3. And with the response to these videos, I'm really going to try to dive in and make more of this type of content. So let me know what you'd like to see about Critical Role. I'm thinking about making some lore breakdown videos or, I don't know. Yeah. So let me know your ideas. And I appreciate you guys sticking around the channel even after the show ends. But, we'll see you in season 3 if not. Other than that, I think that's pretty much all I got. So I will leave you with this last little gem.
Keylith, who is following you, Scanlan, with a bottle of wine and 2 glasses.
Oh my. Oh dear. She's gonna rob you blind.
Nobody knows who she is except Matt.
All go to your various rooms. Keylith pulls out the chair and the table in the far end of the bedroom, sits down and begins to pour glasses of wine and sits across. You guys have drinks and begin various conversations about. She's that good of a flute player. So she asks you about your history and kind of your travels and how you met Dr. Dranzel and everything.
I tell her all the best parts and leave out the naughty bits.
Interesting take.
Kingslayer,
Right, I
Leader
remember.
of a rebellion, you know.
So you've said a number of times. Drinks a little bit more of the wine, sits down. I guess I should tell you a bit about myself then.
Yes, please. I'm fascinated.
Well, I grew up in Kymel, mostly, before moving to Westerun to train at the College of the White Duke. Finest of the birds he was.
Yes.
My mum gave all her savings to put me up there. Now, I only joined the troop about 6 months back. It was my 3rd year at the Duke's when the good doctor came through, and well, I seized the opportunity. Now, to be perfectly honest up front, I've already heard a bit about your tale, Shorthalt. The charming of the Pauper Prince, your rendition of Summer's Sunder at the cliffs of Dagger Bay. I've been hoping our paths would cross.
You're not there, drunkie.
You're drunk. Just go to sleep.
Method.
Cliffs of Dagger Bay. Go ahead.
Dagger Bay is a place.
Go ahead.
Well, I'm flattered, and you have quite a lot of talent for just having played with the troupe for 6 months. I was impressed back there.
Thank you very much. You know, I've heard most of these stories. My mother, Sybil.
Who?
Sybil, a fine gnomish lass. She was some years ago. She came across a smooth silver-tongued flautist who blew through like the wind and disappeared.
Everybody see, they're just realizing what's going on.
Suddenly left her a child to raise on the income of a quilter, she did. Now, growing up, I'd hear tale and tale of your musical feats, as my mother took on a 3rd job.
No.
Support us. A few bad harvests just south of Silvercut. Being the only tiny female fair folk in such a rural town means being preyed upon, so I learned to use a blade quickly. And to wield my charm just as viciously. Seems that runs in the family, eh? I practiced. I stole. Lied about my age and eventually paid my way into the Duke's College so I can find you. Prove you a scoundrel. At this point, you see her stand up. And she begins to draw a small blade from her side.
Oh my god!
Her face is hardened and still as she stares at you. You see a slight tremble in her hand. This day, Scanlan Shorthalt, I beat you at your own song. Now I come to take your dignity. Now take up your sword.
Yeah. That was a total surprise to everybody. Matt had plotted this as a way to foil Sam's way of playing his character, just as a total cad and ladies' man and not caring about anybody but himself. And it was a big surprise to, as you can see, to everyone at the table. They were like, what is this? So funny. Oh man, thank you, Will, so much for all the work, pulling out all the details and getting those clips. I know that this was a huge amount of work for you while this season was going on. I feel like Will spent as much time editing these as anything else he did for this last month. So we really appreciate it. And if you're not already a big fan of the Pixelists, you could go check out their content. We have a link in the description below. We enjoy it. I watch pretty much everything they produce, and they are great. So you should like them too.
Well, thank you again for tuning into our channel. As I said, don't forget to give your love and support to Pixelists. The link will be in our description below. Thank you for your love and support to our channel as well. Your recommendations and your suggestions, please keep them coming. And also, thank you for your liking our channel and subscribing to our channel. And if you like this kind of content, you can share it to your friends and family. Thank you again. See you in the next video.